are your preparations for your forthcoming, when you stand against John Major? I guess you're standing in Huntingdon this year?
Yes, I will be. I took him on last time, and I also took on Neil Kinnock, who is gone now, and I took on Paddy Ashdown. So it was a good result. So I might take the 3 leaders on again this year. It depends how I feel and obviously how the finances are. If I do enough gigs, I do rock and roll gigs, and I invest that into these election campaigns.
Now, you've been standing for nigh on, 30 years plus.
Yes.
So you're, in theory, the longest standing electoral leader.
Party leader, that's correct, yes.
How do you feel about that?
Well, very proud, because I'm in the Guinness Book of Records, and if you buy the 1997 edition, it comes out near Christmas, you'll see that I'm in there as standing the most amount of times and to be the longest standing party leader. So it's great to have that in a book, and I'm also, there's 3 questions about me in Trivial Pursuit.
Which was the most bizarre question in Trivial Pursuit?
Well, there was the one, who's the longest standing party leader, and it said there, Screaming Lord Sutch, and then the other one, who stood the most amount of time, Screaming Lord Sutch, and who had a famous man driving Screaming Lord Sutch, and it was myself,
Brilliant. How many candidates, I know this is sort of a bit in context, but how many candidates do you reckon, once they sort of bang the hammer or whatever they do and say, right, we've got an election in 4 weeks' time, how many candidates do you hope to have?
Well, I hope to have at least 200. That's what we've brought the book out and the manifesto in the form of a book. And it will go around all the shops, Smiths and Woolworths and everywhere. So the people that can pick that book up have got an immediate address, where to get in touch, the phone number, the fax, the Golden Lion Hotel, Ashburton in Devon. They've got the phone number, fax, and they can get straight in touch, say, yes, I want to be a candidate. We check them out, and if they got a headquarters like a pub or a club or a restaurant or whatever they want, then we go ahead.
Okay, moving on slightly, now you say you check them out. Mr. Wild Willie Barrett is proposed to be a candidate. What values do you feel that he can bring to the Monster Ravens?
Well, it's the Monster Raving Loony Party is a rock and roll party, and it's the first rock and roll party, and I'm the first rock and roll politician, way before Clinton. I know he plays the saxophone with bits of Elvis Presley songs, but I was doing this in 1963 and Clinton was still in his nappies. So I have been the first, and also who's followed me is now this Tony Blair, this chap that they've found for Labour, who I thought was a member of the Conservative Party, the way he dresses, but that's another story. So he's also an ex-member of a rock and roll band, but more of a soft harmony type band, not real rock and roll. But Wild Willie is a real wild rocker and a great guitarist, and he plays piano and sings and writes, so he's a very talented man. So I think he's an ideal candidate for the official Monster Raving Loony Party.
Do you have any words of advice for Willie, first campaign and all that?
Advice to him would be to get out there and believe in it, and when he's out there, make out he's on stage all the time and perform like he's on the stage, and be sincere and believe in what he's saying and be a real politician.
Now, there's rumours that you two are going to do Elected.
Yes.
How far down the... Once we get it done, what's the plan for Elected?
Well, it's got as far as being erected at the moment, but we hope to have it elected. So as soon as we got it up and running, that's it, we will do that. And we think this is a great song because I want to be elected. I've been trying since 1963, when I first stood in Stratford-upon-Avon, and then later on against Harold Wilson. So I've been trying all these years, and I first put up policies, votes at 18, when you couldn't vote until you was 21. That has become law. I put up to abolish the 11 plus, because it wasn't fair if you had a headache, you was ill, So that has become law now. They've abolished 11 plus. And I also put up for local and commercial radio stations, because BBC had the monopoly, and now we've got that. These are all the things I put up, ideas forward, and also for pubs to be open at the landlord's discretion, to be open all day long, up to the publican himself. So that's become law. So now I'm campaigning for passports for pets, where you can take your dog or your cat over to France or Germany, because it's all you need. They say you can't bring him back unless he does 6 months quarantine. Well, that's an old outdated law, because it's all he's got to have is an injection for rabies. And that does exist, because I've got a cat in France that's had this injection for rabies and also the certificate. So we're just waiting for this stupid law, which they're talking about now, bringing to an end, and it's totally out of date and unnecessary. You know, you've got more chances of catching something if Margaret Thatcher bit you than my cat.
What policies this year that the party have discussed and have passed that you feel that could be a real sort of vote winner?
Well, what we've done is to extend the Channel Tunnel to Guernsey and Jersey, and that'll create a lot of work. And then we extend it to Switzerland, and then we can become a tax haven, same as Guernsey and Jersey. But we can also undercut Switzerland, and then all that money that's gone out the country, your money, my money, the viewers' money, and also the Maxwell money. It's all disappeared over there. So it'd all come back. So we'd be give them a better deal than they give you in Switzerland, undercut them, much better deal. So all that money would come back. We'll be knee-deep in money. Everyone agrees with that. So as we're knee-deep in money, then we'll only have to work 2 days a week and 5-day weekends, and everyone's in favour of that.
I'm one of them. Now, your campaign election poster is very similar, if not stolen from Saatchi and Saatchi. What gave you the idea, New Loony, No Danger?
Well, this is a fact. I've been Sutchy and Sutchy for many, many years now, and someone come along and called themselves Saatchi and Saatchi. Well, obviously it's a copyright here, and I was the first Sutchy and Sutchy, especially in politics. They weren't. Where were they in 1963? Show me a poster of them in 1963. I can show you posters of mine in my brand new book. It's got pictures of me 1963 with Sutchy and Sutchy. So obviously we were the first. And what we're trying to prove is that they even nicked the idea, the Tories, of using a loony poster, because you only got to look at them original posters and they look loony. So we're saying, New Loony, no danger. And that's true. You can trust the good old Loony Party. Vote for insanity, it makes sense. And don't forget, on the day, voting can seriously damage your sanity.
On that note, slightly, Europe, on our doorstep.
Yes.
It's going to be a united Europe. What are the Monsters' feelings on that? What if you got him, what would you do? We're going to be, we're going to have one currency soon, and we're going to be United Nations of it.
Well, we've had a meeting and we do agree it should be one currency. We all agree on that, everyone in the Loony Party. And this is the currency. It's the Loony Pound notes. See, there they are, Loony Pound notes, with a picture of Margaret Thatcher on the front of them. So that's it, the Queen of Loonyland. And that is the note which will be floated all over Europe, because this note is actually waterproof and it will float. The other ones don't. The 10s, the 20s, the 5s, they actually sink. So this is the only note which will actually float. So we'll have a floating currency, and that's for the floating voter. Vote Raving Loony.
Okay, I've just got to change my take on that one. We're on 35 minutes.
Oh yes, we've got a manifesto, the first out of all the parties, because we're not the slowest. The first of all the parties, you know who they are as well as I do, to have a manifesto out and in the shops and ready to go. And we haven't just done it in cheap paper. like a lot of the others do. Nice shiny paper, and nice and solid, and it's a book form, so you can get it in any book up and down the country, which any bookshop. So we think it's a good idea, and that's going very well indeed. Got a lot of orders for this.
What did Thatcher, Kinnock, Wilson, Callaghan, and others I can't think of you?
Well, they thought I was a bit of a threat because we was getting the young people who were voting and supporting us, and a lot of them couldn't get it, especially when we did rock and roll gigs at these by-elections where we drew a lot of crowds, and the Labour realised what we were doing, and then they launched their own Labour rock gigs, and that come years and years later. Red Wedge, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
That's it, many years later. But we started it all off, as I said, we're the first rock and roll party, and that is what is good about the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Even the pubs up and down the country which put up candidates, they put up either a member of a band or they put up their DJ. Or if they've got a loony barman, they put him up. But we always have people who are fun people and who entertain and like to be entertained themselves. So we have a big meeting and we all entertain each other and we all have a great time.
Who gave you the biggest snub?
The biggest snub I would have thought would have been maybe some of the Conservative Party that didn't understand what we were trying to do, and we once went into an election meeting, and they didn't want the Loony Party in there because they thought we might disrupt it. So that's the only time we've ever been had any sort of snub. Otherwise, the Labour and the Liberals or the Liberal Democrats have always said it's okay for the loonies to come into their meetings.
What's your message to your candidates now that your party conference is over?
Go back to your constituencies and get ready for government.
Now, we touched a little bit on Europe and the currencies. What other sort of Saddam Hussein, there's many things that are going on in the world. What your foreign policies? What if someone said Jeremy Pax was tell me about your foreign policies.
Your foreign policies. Well, we think without a doubt we should create a Euro sausage, and this sausage would be in the shape of an E for Europe, and it would be made of good old British beef from the beef mountain, and it's getting bigger every day. Also a touch of butter and a bit of wine. Put it all together with a bit of corn, and then we would have a Euro sausage, and we could freeze dry these sausages. And anyone that needs them, if the poor and the needy need these, we can give them to them, and they can thaw them out and eat them. And we could even send them to Africa. Or if we don't thaw them out, we can drop them on Baghdad.
Do you think yourself eccentric?
No, only other people think I'm eccentric, but I'm not eccentric. I'm quite normal. It's all the other people that are eccentric. And there's plenty of them in these straight suits, collars and ties. They're the eccentric ones.
Do you think the press give you a hard time?
No, I get a good press and a bad press and a happy press and a miserable press. I get all types of press. But it comes and goes. Sometimes you're slightly the flavour of the month, and sometimes you're not. You must accept that. It's the same in rock and roll. People are in, they're out, then they're back in again, and it's called making a comeback. But I haven't had to make a comeback in politics because I haven't gone away.
How much have you spent over the last 32 years
pursuing
this dream?
Well, I'll put it like this. Last year, I owed the bank £196,000. And between you and me, I had trouble sleeping, because it kept whirling round 196,000. And then I did 5 gigs in 1 week, and I give that to the bank manager. And he said, "Thank you very much." but that doesn't even cover the interest. So then I did worry, and worried. And then in the end, I sorted it all out. I sold a house, paid off, sold it for peanuts, lost a lot of money, paid off the bank, and now I don't owe them anything, which is much clearer in the head. Because after all, it's only bits of paper. And bits of paper is to wipe your bum on. That's all it is.
Now you're a very honest person. You're not really cut out for politics, are you?
No, there are some other honest politicians, but they're up and down the country. Because people that say you've got to be corrupt and you've got to be a villain to be a politician, this is so in a lot of the cases of the big names you see in the headlines. That's why you see them, but not so with a lot of local MPs that are doing a good job, that are beavering away and no one hears about them because they're doing a good job and they don't hit the headlines. So there are some honest politicians out there. And there are some politicians out there that are totally honest, church-going and good people. And there's also, it's like saying that all rock and roll singers take drugs, drink loads of alcohol, and are having sex all the time. Well, this isn't true. You've only got to ask Cliff Richards.
Do you feel that would you just be an MP?
I would just be an MP because I would be happy to represent my constituencies and make them happy. Now, I think this is a good thing, and I will try to raise money locally for local charities. And if there's people needs, if the old age pensioners need something, or the homeless need something, I would even organise some concerts. And with a lot of my friends in the business, all the big concerts, and do a gig to raise the money.
Well, totally different now. John Otway. If I mention John Otway to you, what's your first thoughts on the man?
Isn't it? Is it John Oxo? Is it? Oh no, Otway. Yes, I did remember doing a gig with him once. He's got a very mature voice, a very fine voice. I think he studied under Johnny Rotten, I'm not quite sure, but it's that kind of voice. It doesn't actually grate on you. It just sort of floats around and hits you over the head. But it's a good voice, and he's unique, and I think he will go far, and the farther, the better. Oh, the qualities for an ideal candidate. I'll just have a look that up in the book. The qualities for an ideal candidate. It's all here in this great book, That's.
How much is it, David?
It's the book is by McNaughty's Books, and it's only $3.99, which is you get a penny change out of £4 note. So if you've got £4 note, well, if you've got a £4 note, you get one for nothing, actually. But if you got a £5 note, you get £1 and 1 penny change. So I think that's quite good, and it fits in the letterbox. So it's a book that can actually be posted to friends, and the postman doesn't knock them up at 8 o'clock in the morning because he can't get the fat book in the letterbox. This is the trouble with a lot of the Tories books, because they do rabbit on. And they're the big, thick wad things, and they can't go in the letterboxes. This is designed for letterboxes. See? Very, very clever. And same with the Labour ones. And the Liberal Democrats can't afford to write books, so we don't mention them. But, oh yes, we were saying, what we need is a candidate. See, he's got to be a shy and bashful person, very polite, a bit like Oliver Reed or Keith Moon. This kind of character is what we're looking for. And they've got to have a bit of authority, and they've got to be a leader. Just a leader. So that is the ideal qualifications, and they've got. It's very handy if because I've found this a disadvantage because I've stood over 40 times up and down the country. So it's better really if you find a local man, because if you find a local man, he doesn't keep getting lost, like the ones from London do. You know, they get totally lost and walk into lampposts and just come at the dead ends and they don't know where they're going. So try and get a local man, and I expect if you're lucky, you could get a taxi driver, because they would know everyone and know all the streets. So if there's a taxi driver out there and he wants to stand for the party, he's an ideal man. Or he'd make an ideal election agent.
Now, given that you aren't going to win, by some remote chance the Conservatives, Labour or whoever gets more votes than yourself, who would you prefer to win? Which out of the possibly, well, I suppose 2 parties would you like? Do you feel that we need a change in Britain?
I think if we don't win outright, I think then I'd like to see the Green Party win. Then we would form an alliance with the Green Party, and it would be the Monster Raving Loony Green Teeth Party. And we would take on Europe, or bite into Europe. No, we agree, but what I would like to, if I become the Prime Minister of Great Britain, then I'm always going after first. So then I would like to be the President of the United States, you know. And the first President or Prime Minister on the moon.
Do you feel this is in your capabilities, though?
Well, I hope so in our lifetimes, because we have... When I was a little kid, I used to look up at the moon, and I never think that one day men will actually walk on the moon. So if men can walk on the moon, they can vote on the moon. And I would like them to vote for me.
Did your parents feel that you should have gone into politics? Did they want you to have a normal job?
I think they did want me to have a normal job, yes, but I had a job which they considered was a normal job. I worked in a tennis ball factory, but I had to leave because it was all balls.
I knew you were going. Now, you changed your name. Now, is it Lord Sutch or Screaming, or you changed it by Depot? Now, what is your official name?
Well, my right name is Lord David Sutch, and I added the Lord on because I wore a top hat and tails many years ago. No one objected to it, so I become squatters' rights, shall we say, on the title Lord, and no one's ever objected. And as it went so many years without anybody objecting, I was able to put it on my passport, Lord David Sutch. And also my driving licence, Lord David Sutch, which is good, you know.
What progressive thought is today?
No, well, they were very shocked, and it was a very outlandish thing to do. And they were a bit terrified at the time, you know, these people. They said, "You're a rock and roll singer, you cannot stand for Parliament." And I said, well, I've got as much right as anyone else, because I perform in front of young people and I understand them more than the average MP, who was much too old. I was on the same wavelength as these kids. Well, they were calling kids, but they were really, you know, 18 and 19 and 20. Like, I met a guy and his wife. He had 2 kids walking each side of the pram and one in the pram, yet he couldn't vote, nor could his wife vote. But they could bring 3 kids into the world, so I thought this was crazy. So they said they would vote for me if they could. So I said, how old are you? They said 20. So they couldn't vote, so I campaigned for votes at 18. And then it became law.
Did that give you, are you sort of quite proud of that? I think it's great.
Oh, yes, I'm very proud of that I was the first. But I was laughed off the papers at the time. At the time, the headline says that this mad pop singer wants votes at 18. And they were saying the kids will never get the vote at 18. But I proved them wrong. I kept campaigning and campaigning become law. It's the same when I come back from America and Australia. I saw their radio stations. I thought they were great. You know, there was all these rock and roll stations, country and western stations, jazz stations. So I thought we need that in England. A choice, you know. The only choice we had was the BBC, and the only nearest thing we had to rock and roll was the Billy Cotton Band Show. And it was all straight music, you know, strangling violins.
What do you feel was perhaps your the most bizarre policy that you were going to put forward? The one that really probably was a little bit too far. Can you remember one?
Well, people got upset with us saying we were going to ski down the Butter Mountains. And I suggested Ed Eagle Edwards would be the man to do it. And some people got upset with that. And then when I said we should move the wine lakes to Hampstead Heath, and then I would get everybody to help me drink them and save all that storage, they thought that was bizarre. And then I wanted to abolish jogging in London, because I said they should, if they want to jog, they should just jog in proper centres and jog on conveyor belts and make electricity for old age pensioners. Do some good.
Not bad idea, that one. I like that.
Well, that's the whole idea. Ours is more different and ours is more friendly. You find it's hard to believe that people just come along to our conferences. But the Tory one, you've got to have identification, passports, birth certificates, electromagnets. You've got to go through a search of your handbag and wallet just to get in. Here, we just have one dog who goes around the hotel and sniffs out for flower bombs. That is the difference. We're not under threat, because we're not a threat to anybody.